I didn't believe in fate until the moment my bumper kissed the back of a $250,000 car. The sound wasn't dramatic. No explosion of metal or shattering glass, just a soft crunch that seemed to echo through the underground parking garage like a death knell. I sat frozen behind the wheel of my 12-year-old Honda Civic, watching a single crack spider across my headlight, and felt my entire world tilt sideways. No. My fingers trembled against the steering wheel. I'd been distracted thinking about the electricity bill I couldn't pay, the double shift I'd just pulled at the diner, the way my landlord's texts were getting more threatening by the day. I hadn't seen the sleek black Maserati until it was too late. The driver's door opened. I should have stayed in my car, should have locked the doors, called my insurance, done literally anything except what I did. But exhaustion makes you stupid, and I was so tired I could barely think straight. So I opened my door and stepped out into the fluorescent-lit silence of the garage, my waitress uniform still smelling like grease and desperation. "I'm so sorry. I didn't." The words died in my throat. The man who emerged from the Maserati wasn't just handsome. He was dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with the accident, and everything to do with the way he moved, like every step was calculated, every gesture a decision. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my annual rent. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and ruthless beauty. But it was his eyes that stopped my heart. Gray, cold, assessing me like I was a problem to be solved or eliminated. "Sorry?" His voice was low, smooth as aged whiskey, and just as dangerous. He didn't sound angry. Somehow, that made it worse. "You hit a $240,000 vehicle, and you're sorry?" I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. "I have insurance. Insurance." He said the word like it amused him, like I'd just offered to pay off the national debt with pocket change. He walked around to inspect the damage, his expensive shoes clicking against the concrete with methodical precision. The back of his car had a small dent, barely noticeable. Mine looked like it had lost a fight with a concrete wall. He straightened, turning those devastating eyes back to me, and I felt my pulse kick up another notch. There was something predatory in his gaze now, something that made every instinct I had scream run. "What's your name?" Why do you need my name?" One dark eyebrow lifted. "Because in approximately 30 seconds, my security team is going to arrive, and I'd prefer to tell them who you are before they assume you're a threat." "Security team?" My stomach dropped. What kind of person traveled with a security team? "Natalia," I heard myself say. "Natalia Chen." He studied me for a long moment, and I became acutely aware of how I must look, hair falling out of its bun, makeup long since faded, my cheap uniform wrinkled and stained. I probably smelled like coffee and failure. "Natalia." He repeated my name like he was testing how it felt in his mouth. "I'm Dante Russo." The name meant nothing to me. Should it have? The way he said it suggested people usually recognized it. Footsteps echoed through the garage. 3 men appeared from the stairwell, all wearing dark suits, all moving with the same coiled alertness. They took in the scene with quick, professional glances. The damaged cars, me standing there looking terrified, Dante Russo watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "Mr. Russo?" One of them spoke. Older, silver-haired, with scars that suggested he'd seen violence up close. "Everything all right?" "Minor accident." Dante's eyes never left mine. Miss Chen here was just explaining how she plans to cover the damages. My heart hammered against my ribs. The way he said it so calm, so certain made it clear he already knew I couldn't afford it. Not even close. "I'll call my insurance," I managed, hating how my voice shook. "They'll handle everything." "Your insurance?" Dante stepped closer, close enough that I caught his scent. Something expensive and dark, like cedar and smoke. "For a 2024 Maserati Gran Turismo. Do you know what the deductible alone would do to your premiums?" I didn't. I could barely afford my current premiums. He must have seen the answer in my face because something shifted in his expression. Not quite sympathy. More like interest. "Here's what's going to happen, Natalia." My name sounded different in his mouth now. Almost intimate. "You're going to give Marco here your information. Phone number, address. Then you're going to go home and wait for me to contact you." "Contact me? Why would you?" "Because we need to discuss your payment plan." The words sent ice down my spine. Payment plan. Like I owed him something beyond insurance claims and police reports. Like this was personal now. I don't understand, I whispered. Dante leaned in, and I caught the full force of those gray eyes, cold fire, and carefully controlled danger. When he spoke, his voice was soft enough that only I could hear it. You will. He straightened, already turning away, dismissing me like I was a problem he'd already solved. Marco, the older man, approached with a tablet, asking for my details in a voice that suggested refusal wasn't an option. I gave them everything they asked for. My number, my address, watched as they typed it all into some database I didn't want to think about. Dante was already back in his Maserati when Marco finished. The engine purred to life, a sound like controlled power, barely restrained. But before he drove away, Dante's window rolled down, and those eyes found mine one last time through the tinted glass. Drive safe, Natalia. I'd hate for anything to happen to you before we settle our debt. Then he was gone. The Maserati, gliding up the exit ramp like a shadow made of metal and menace. I stood alone in the garage, surrounded by silence and the fading scent of expensive cologne, and realized three things simultaneously. 1. Dante Russo was definitely not just a regular businessman. 2. I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. And 3. Something in the way he'd looked at me, hungry, possessive, claiming, told me this accident was only the beginning. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. The text was simple. Just 2 words that made my blood run cold and hot all at once. Soon, Natalia. 3 days passed before Dante Russo came to collect. 3 days of jumping every time my phone buzzed. 3 days of checking over my shoulder on my walk home from the diner, searching the shadows for expensive suits and cold gray eyes. 3 days of telling myself I was being paranoid, that he was just a rich man with a damaged car, that the text had been a weird power play and nothing more. I was wrong. It was Thursday night, nearly 11, and I'd just finished closing the diner when I stepped out into the October cold and found him leaning against my car. Not his Maserati, my car, the one with the cracked headlight and rusted door panel, parked in the back lot under a flickering streetlight that cast his face in sharp relief, all angles and shadows in controlled menace. He looked different than he had in the garage, still wearing a suit, but the tie was gone, the top button undone, sleeves rolled to his forearms, like he'd been working, or killing someone. The thought should have been absurd. It wasn't. Hello, Natalia. My name again. That same dark intimacy that made my skin prickle with awareness I didn't want to feel. What are you doing here? My keys bit into my palm, the only weapon I had. Not that keys would do much against a man like him. We have business to discuss. He pushed off my car with fluid grace, and I forced myself not to step back. Showing fear felt dangerous, like it would trigger something predatory in him. At 11 at night, in a parking lot? I tried for brave, landed somewhere near terrified. That's not how normal people conduct business. Something flickered in his eyes, amusement, maybe, or appreciation. I'm not normal people. No shit. Look, I talked to my insurance company. They'll cover the damages minus my deductible. I can pay you. I swallowed hard, thinking of my savings account with its pathetic 3-digit balance. I can pay you installments. $50 a month. It'll take a while, but $50. He said it the same way he'd said insurance in the garage, like it was a joke, only he understood. Natalia, the paint job alone costs more than you make in a year. The words hit like a slap. Not because they were cruel, he delivered them with perfect neutrality, but because they were true. Then what do you want from me? The question came out sharper than I intended, edged with exhaustion and fear, and something that felt dangerously close to defiance. Dante stepped closer, not touching, but close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Close enough that I caught that scent again, cedar and smoke and money I'd never have. I want to offer you a deal. What kind of deal? The kind that solves both our problems. His gaze moved over my face, studying me with an intensity that made my breath catch. You need money. I need something else. Ice flooded my veins. If you think I'm going to... Not that. His voice went hard. Absolute. I don't pay for sex, Natalia. And I sure as hell don't coerce it. The relief was so sharp it made me dizzy. But it didn't answer the real question. Then what? Come work for me. I blinked. Of all the things I'd expected him to say, that wasn't one of them. Work for you? Doing what? I need someone I can trust in my home, someone to manage my household, cooking, organizing, handling certain domestic matters. He said, it like the words tasted foreign, like domestic matters were as far from his world as I was. You need a housekeeper. The absurdity almost made me laugh. You're offering me a job as your housekeeper? Live-in position, private quarters, full benefits, salary of $80,000 a year. The number hit me like a physical blow. 80,000. I made barely 20, working myself into the ground at the diner. That's insane. No one pays a housekeeper that much. I do. His eyes held mine, and I saw something flicker there, something calculating and dark. The position comes with certain requirements, discretion being the most important. You'd see things, Natalia. Hear things. Things that would need to stay confidential. There it is, the catch. The reason a man like Dante Russo would offer someone like me a fortune. What kind of things? The kind that could get you killed if you talked about them. He said it so calmly, like death was just another business consideration. And, maybe for him, it was. I should have run, should have gotten in my car and driven straight to the police. But I stood there, frozen between terror and something that felt sickeningly like temptation. $80,000, no more double shifts, no more landlord threats, no more eating ramen for dinner because I couldn't afford anything else. And if I say no? I whispered. Dante's expression didn't change, but the air between us went cold. Then you pay me back the traditional way. $50 a month. Like you suggested, though I should mention the total damages came to $47,000. That's roughly 78 years of payments. He paused. You'll be 99 when you finish paying me off. My knees went weak. 47,000? Custom paint, interior leather repair, recalibration of the sensor array you damaged. He rattled off the items like a grocery list. I had my people draw up an itemized estimate. Would you like to see it? That's insane. You're trying to trap me. I'm offering you a choice. His hand came up, and I flinched before I could stop myself. He froze, something dangerous flashing across his face, before his fingers brushed my cheek with unexpected gentleness. You hit my car, Natalia. There are consequences. I'm simply giving you options for how to handle them. His touch burned. I jerked back, and his hand dropped. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow night, 8 p.m. He pulled a card from his pocket, heavy stock, embossed lettering. An address in the city's most exclusive neighborhood. Come to this address with your answer. If you're not there by 8:15, I'll assume you've chosen the payment plan. He turned to leave, and panic seized my chest. Wait, what if I go to the police? Tell them you're threatening me? Dante looked back over his shoulder, and his smile was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. Not cruel, just knowing. Go ahead. Tell them Dante Russo is harassing you. See what happens. Then he was gone, sliding into a black SUV I hadn't even noticed, leaving me alone in the parking lot with a business card, and a choice that felt like no choice at all. I looked down at the card in my trembling hands. The address was in Blackstone Heights, where monsters lived in mansions and made the rules everyone else followed. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Tick-tock, Natalia. Some debts can't be paid in installments. I stared at my reflection in my car window, dark circles, cheap uniform, exhaustion etched into every line of my face, and I realized that no matter what I chose tomorrow, the girl looking back at me was already gone. I told myself I was going to say no. All through my shift on Friday, I rehearsed the words, "Thank you, but I can't accept your offer. I'll find another way to pay you back." Polite, firm, final. But at 7:47 p.m., I found myself standing outside the gates of 1,847 Blackstone Heights, wearing the only dress I owned that didn't smell like diner grease, and those carefully prepared words felt like ash in my mouth. The house, no. The estate rose before me like something out of a dark fairy tale, all stone and iron and Gothic architecture that seemed designed to intimidate. Security cameras tracked my approach. The gate opened before I could press the intercom, like they'd been watching me stand there, gathering courage. Or losing it. The driveway curved through manicured grounds lit by subtle landscape lighting. My Civic looked obscene here, a rusted insult against all this wealth. I parked near the main entrance, between a Bentley and another vehicle I couldn't even identify, and felt like I was leaving fingerprints on someone else's life. The front door opened as I climbed the steps, Not Dante. A woman late 50s, steel-gray hair pulled into an elegant knot, wearing a black dress that screamed expensive simplicity. Her eyes swept over me with the kind of assessment that saw everything and judged accordingly. Miss Chen, Mr. Russo is expecting you. Her voice carried a faint Italian accent. I'm Teresa, head of household staff. Staff. Plural. Of course, a place like this had staff. I followed her through an entrance hall that belonged in a museum. Marble floors. A chandelier that probably cost more than my car. Original artwork on the walls. I didn't know much about art, but I recognized money when I saw it. Mr. Russo is in his study, Teresa said, leading me down a corridor lined with closed doors. A word of advice, Miss Chen. In this house, you see nothing. You hear nothing. You speak of nothing beyond these walls. She stopped, turning to face me with eyes that had seen too much. Do you understand? It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. Maybe even kindness, in its own way. I understand. She nodded once, then knocked on a heavy wooden door. Come in. Dante's voice, muffled by the wood, still sent a shiver down my spine. Teresa opened the door and stepped aside. I walked into the study alone. The room was all dark wood and leather, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and a massive desk where Dante sat reading something on his laptop. He didn't look up immediately, and I wondered if this was a power play making me wait, reminding me who was in control. Then he closed the laptop and stood, and the air in the room changed. He'd shed the suit jacket, white shirt, sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle and ink. I caught a glimpse of a tattoo, something in Italian script, before he moved around the desk. You came. He sounded satisfied, like he'd known I would. I haven't decided yet, I lied. The corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile. Yes, you have. You wouldn't be here otherwise. God, I hated that he was right. Show me. The words came out harder than I intended. If I'm going to work here, I want to see what I'm walking into. Something flickered in his eyes, respect, maybe, or just amusement at my attempt at control. Fair enough. He led me through the house, and with each room, my sense of reality tilted further. A kitchen that looked like it belonged in a restaurant, a dining room with a table that could seat 20, a living area with furniture that whispered old money and windows overlooking the city lights below. Your quarters would be on the 3rd floor, Dante said, climbing a sweeping staircase. Private bedroom, bathroom, sitting area. You'd have full access to the house except my personal wing in the basement. The basement. Of course. Every villain in every story had a basement. He showed me the bedroom, and it was nicer than any apartment I'd ever lived in. King bed. Actual artwork on the walls. Windows with a view that made my chest ache. What's in the basement? I asked. Dante turned from the window, and his expression went cold. Nothing that concerns you. That's the most important rule, Natalia. There are parts of my life, parts of this house, that you don't ask about, ever. And if I accidentally see something, hear something, then you forget it immediately. He crossed the space between us with predatory grace, and suddenly the beautiful room felt very small. I need to know you can do that. Need to know you understand what discretion means in my world. Your world. I forced myself to hold his gaze. You still haven't told me what that is. What you actually do. I'm a businessman. Businessmen don't need this level of security. Don't talk about things that could get people killed. My heart hammered, but I pushed forward. If I'm going to put myself in danger, I deserve to know why. Dante studied me for a long moment, and I saw him calculating, weighing truth against risk, honesty against control. I run an organization, he said finally. Import, export, real estate, various investments. Some of my business partners are less than legal in their operations, which means I need people around me I can trust absolutely. People who won't run to the authorities the first time they overhear something questionable. It was the truth. I could feel it, but it wasn't the whole truth. You're Mafia. I said it flat, testing the word. His jaw tightened. That's a crude term for a complex reality. But if it helps you understand the stakes, yes. I operate in a world where loyalty is currency and betrayal is death. The confirmation should have sent me running. Instead, some twisted part of me felt relieved. At least now I knew what I was dealing with. And you want me a waitress who can barely pay her rent working in your home. Why? Because you're desperate enough to say yes, and desperate people can be trusted to act in their own self-interest. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear with a gentleness that contradicted everything else about him. As long as I'm your best option, you'll be loyal. It's simple economics. His touch lingered, and I hated the way my body responded, the flutter in my stomach, the heat spreading across my skin. There's one more thing you need to see, Dante said, his voice dropping lower, before you make your final decision. He took my hand the first time he'd really touched me and led me back downstairs, past the study, toward a door I hadn't noticed before. A door with a keypad lock. The basement? My voice shook. You wanted truth, Natalia. Here it is. He punched in a code. The lock disengaged with a heavy click, and when the door swung open onto darkness and descending stairs, I realized I'd been wrong about everything. This wasn't just a choice about money or survival. This was the moment my entire life divided into before and after. Come, Dante said, still holding my hand. Let me show you exactly who you're working for. The basement wasn't what I expected. No torture devices, no bodies wrapped in plastic. Just a state-of-the-art office, multiple screens displaying security feeds, financial data scrolling in, real-time, and a wall covered in photographs connected by red string like something out of a crime drama. Except this wasn't fiction. This is my war room, Dante said, releasing my hand but staying close enough that I felt the heat of him at my back. Everything I need to protect what's mine. I moved toward the wall of photographs, and my stomach dropped. Faces, dozens of them, some marked with red X's. Others circled, names and dates scrawled in sharp handwriting. These people, I whispered. The ones with X's. Dead. He said it without inflection. Statement of fact, nothing more. Did you... I couldn't finish the question. Some. Others were handled by people who work for me. Dante moved beside me, pointing to a photo of a hard-faced man with cold eyes. Antonio Berardi. Tried to move drugs through my territory without permission. Made an example of one of my men's daughters. His finger tapped the red X over Berardi's face. He's not a problem anymore. I should have been. Horrified. Should have run screaming. But all I could think was, he killed a man who hurt a child. And these? I pointed to the circled photos. Active threats. People who want me dead. My territory. My businesses. His hand came to rest on the small of my back, and I felt the touch like a brand through the thin fabric of my dress. This is why I need discretion, Natalia. Why the people in my home have to be absolutely trustworthy. One leak, one careless word, and everyone in this house becomes a target. I turned to face him, and the proximity stole my breath. We were too close, close enough to see the faint scar along his jawline, the shadow of stubble, the way his eyes held secrets that could destroy me. Why are you showing me this? Why not just lie? I would have believed you were a regular businessman. Because I don't want your ignorant loyalty. I want you to choose this with full knowledge of what you're walking into. His hand lifted, fingers brushing my cheek with that same devastating gentleness. And because something tells me you're tired of being lied to, he was right. God help me, he was right. My ex had lied. My parents had lied when they said they'd help me through college, then disappeared when I needed them most. My landlord lied about repairs. My boss at the diner lied about the tips I was owed. At least Dante Russo had the decency to show me the monster before asking me to live in his house. If I say yes, I heard myself say, what happens to my life? My apartment? My job? You quit the diner tonight. I'll have movers pack your apartment tomorrow. Anything you want to keep, we bring here. Anything you don't, we donate. He said it like it was already decided, like my agreement was inevitable. You'll start Monday. Teresa will train you on household routines, security protocols, what I expect. And if I want to leave, after I've started, something dark crossed his face. We'll discuss terms when you sign the contract. But Natalia? His thumb traced my lower lip, and my breath caught. People who enter my world don't usually leave it, not intact anyway. It should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something snap into place. Some reckless part of me that was so tired of being afraid, being broke, being invisible. I wanted in writing, the salary, the terms, everything. Dante's smile was slow, predatory, satisfied. Already prepared. Teresa has it upstairs. Of course he did. He'd known I would say yes before I'd even arrived. He led me back upstairs to his study, where Teresa waited with a folder thick with documents. The contract was thorough, almost terrifyingly so. Salary, benefits, duties, NDAs with penalties that made my head spin, and a termination clause that required 3 months' notice and Dante's personal approval. "This says I can't quit without your permission," I said, pointing to the clause. "It says you can't quit without proper transition. I can't have household staff walking out midweek." Dante leaned against his desk, arms crossed, watching me read with an intensity that made concentration difficult. "But if you're genuinely unhappy, we'll discuss it. I'm not a prison warden, Natalia." The words said one thing. His tone said another. "Try to leave me, and see what happens." I should have negotiated. Should have called a lawyer. Instead, I picked up the pen Teresa offered and signed my name at the bottom of page 12. Dante's eyes flared with something I couldn't name. Triumph, possession, maybe both, and he took the pen from my trembling fingers, adding his own signature with a flourish. "Welcome to my world," he said softly. Teresa cleared her throat. "I'll have the movers contact you tomorrow morning, Miss Chen. What time would be convenient?" Reality crashed back. "I work tomorrow, at the diner." "Not anymore." Dante's voice held absolute certainty. "Call them tonight. Tell them you're not coming back. I'll have my accountant send you 2 weeks severance to smooth things over. You can't just—" "I can. I am." He moved closer, and every nerve ending in my body lit up. "You work for me now. Only me. Is that understood?" The possessiveness in his tone should have raised every red flag. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my belly. "Understood," I whispered. "Good." His hand cupped my jaw, tilting my face up to his, and for one heart-stopping moment, I thought he was going to kiss me. "Teresa will show you out. Be back here Monday morning, 7 a.m. Don't be late." Then he released me and turned away, dismissing me like I was just another employee. But I'd seen it, the hunger in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands had curled into fists at his sides, like he was fighting not to touch me again. Teresa guided me back through the mansion, handed me a keycard and security code, and sent me into the night with instructions I barely heard through the roaring in my ears. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, trying to steady my breathing, trying to process what I'd just done. My phone buzzed. "Dante, drive safe. You're mine to protect now." Not, "You work for me." Not, "Employee." Mine. I pulled out of the driveway and didn't let myself look back at the mansion in my rearview mirror. Because if I did, I might see the truth I was already running from. I hadn't just signed a contract. I'd signed myself over to a man who collected people the way he collected enemies. And I had no idea if I'd be protected or destroyed. Monday morning arrived wrapped in fog and regret. I'd spent the weekend in a blur, quitting my job via a voicemail I'd recorded 4 times before getting it right, watching strangers pack up my sad little apartment into boxes that barely filled half a truck, saying goodbye to a life that had never quite fit anyway. Now I stood in Dante's kitchen at 6:55 a.m., wearing black slacks and a white blouse Teresa had sent over, feeling like an imposter in someone else's story. Coffee's in the French press. Mr. Russo takes it black, 2 sugars, in the blue mug only. Teresa moved through the kitchen with military efficiency, showing me where everything lived. "He's in his office until 8. Breakfast at 8:15. He likes—" The kitchen door swung open, cutting her off. Dante filled the doorway in a charcoal suit that made him look like sin given form. His eyes found mine immediately, and something hot and dangerous passed between us before his expression shuddered into cool professionalism. "Teresa, I'll take my coffee in the study. Natalia can bring it." It wasn't a request. Teresa handed me the blue mug, filled precisely to the right level, and I found myself walking through the quiet house alone, my heartbeat loud in my ears. I knocked on the study door. "Come in." He was at his desk, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian to someone who sounded angry. I set the coffee down carefully and turned to leave. His hand shot out, catching my wrist. I froze. His grip wasn't hard, but it was absolute. He continued his conversation like he wasn't holding me in place, his thumb absently stroking the inside of my wrist where my pulse hammered against his touch. The Italian grew sharper, more dangerous. Then, gestislo, ora, handle it, now. He ended the call and finally looked up at me. "Problem?" I managed. "Nothing you need to worry about." But his jaw was tight, tension radiating from him in waves. "How was your first weekend of unemployment?" "Surreal." I didn't pull away from his grip. Wasn't sure I could. Your movers were very thorough. I hire the best. His thumb continued its maddening circle on my skin. Are you settled in your room? Yes. It's nicer than anywhere I've ever lived. Very generous. I take care of what's mine. There it was again, that word. Mine. I should get back to Teresa. She's teaching me your schedule. My schedule. His grip tightened fractionally. Did she tell you about Thursday nights? Ice slid down my spine. No. Thursday nights I have business meetings here. In the dining room. You'll serve dinner, drinks, then make yourself scarce. His eyes held mine, and I saw the warning there. What you hear during those meetings never leaves this house. Not to friends, not to family, not in your sleep. Understood? What kind of meetings? The kind where people discuss things that could get them killed for talking. He released my wrist and leaned back in his chair, studying me. Having second thoughts? Yes. No. Liar. But he smiled, and it transformed his face into something almost human. Almost. You'll get used to it. The secrets. The silence. Eventually it becomes easier than truth. The sadness in his voice caught me off guard. Like he was speaking from experience. Like the silence had cost him something too. Mr. Russo, Dante. When we're alone, you call me Dante. The intimacy of it, of my name in his mouth, his and mine, felt more dangerous than anything in the basement. War room. Dante, I corrected, tasting his name. What happens if I accidentally hear something I shouldn't? His expression went cold. Then you pray I believe it was an accident. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and whatever he saw made his whole demeanor shift, predator awakening. All traces of almost humanity vanishing. Leave. Now. Tell Teresa to lock down the house. What? Why? Now, Natalia. I ran, found Teresa in the kitchen and gasped out Dante's message. She moved instantly, pressing buttons on a panel I hadn't noticed. Heavy locks engaged throughout the house with synchronized clicks. Metal shutters began descending over windows. What's happening? My voice shook. Security protocol. Go to your room and stay there until someone comes for you. But go. I fled upstairs, my room suddenly feeling less like luxury and more like a gilded cage. I locked my door, stupid, pointless gesture, and moved to the window, just as the shutter sealed it shut. Minutes crawled past. 10, 20. Then I heard it raised voices from somewhere below. Male, angry, the sharp crack of something breaking, then a gunshot. I pressed my hand over my mouth to trap the scream. More voices. A scuffle. Another shot. Muffled. Like it had been absorbed by something soft. Or someone. Silence crashed down, worse than the noise. I stood frozen in the center of my room, every horror movie I'd ever seen playing through my mind. Then footsteps in the hallway. Coming closer. A knock on my door. Natalia. It's me. Dante's voice. But different. Rough. Strained. I opened the door and immediately understood why. Blood. On his shirt. His hands. Splattered across his face like grotesque paint. His left arm hung at an odd angle, and his breathing was shallow, controlled the breathing of a man managing pain through sheer will. You're hurt. The words came out strangled. Flesh wound. I've had worse. He swayed slightly, catching himself on the door frame. I need you to do something for me. Hospital. You need a hospital. No hospitals. They report gunshot wounds. His eyes locked on mine, and beneath the pain I saw something else. Fear. Not for himself. There's a doctor in my contacts. Antonio. Call him. Tell him code black. He'll know what to do. Dante, please. The word cracked out of him. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Every rational thought screamed at me to call 911. To run. To get as far from this madness as possible. Instead, I took his phone from his blood-slicked hand and found Antonio's number. What do I tell him? That Dante Russo needs him. Code black. Blackstone Heights. His knees buckled, and I caught him, barely keeping us both upright. And Natalia? When he asks who you are, tell him you're mine. I'm your employee. No. His hand cupped my face, leaving a smear of blood on my cheek. You're mine. Say it. I'm yours, I whispered. His smile was devastating. Good girl. Then, his eyes rolled back and he collapsed, taking us both down to the floor in a tangle of blood and expensive fabric and choices I could never take back. I held a monster in my arms and called his doctor, and realized that somewhere between the contract and the gunshots, I'd stopped planning my escape. Dr. Antonio Mancini arrived in 12 minutes. I knew because I counted every second while Dante bled on my floor, his head in my lap, his blood soaking through my white blouse like a promise I couldn't take back. "Stay with me," I whispered, my fingers trembling against his pulse point. "Please stay with me." His eyes fluttered open, those devastating gray eyes now clouded with pain. "Worried about me, Natalia? You're bleeding on my carpet." "Your carpet." His laugh turned into a cough. "Already claiming territory. Shut up. Save your strength. Bossy." But his hand found mine, gripping tight. "I like it." Then Antonio swept in like a storm, silver-haired, 60-something, carrying a medical bag that had seen too much use. He took one look at Dante and started barking orders. "You. Girl. Hot water. Clean towels. My bag on the bed. Move." I moved. For the next hour, I became Antonio's assistant in a brutal surgery performed on my bedroom floor, holding instruments I didn't know the names for, applying pressure where he indicated, watching him extract a bullet from Dante's shoulder with practiced efficiency that spoke of too many similar nights. Dante stayed conscious through all of it, his jaw locked against screams, his hand crushing mine until I thought bones might break. But he never made a sound, just stared at the ceiling with those unfocused eyes and breathed through the agony. "Drink," Antonio commanded, pressing a glass of amber liquid to Dante's lips. "It'll help with the pain." Dante drank, grimaced, then his gaze found me. "You didn't run." "Where would I go?" "Smart girl." His words were slurring now, whatever Antonio had given him taking effect. "Knew I chose right." His eyes closed. "He'll sleep for a few hours," Antonio said, cleaning his instruments with methodical precision. "The bullet missed the bone. Lucky bastard. He'll be sore as hell for a week, but he'll live." I stared at Dante's pale face, his chest rising and falling in steady rhythm, and felt something crack open inside me. "This happens often?" I asked. Antonio's laugh was bitter. "Often enough. You're the girl he hired?" "I'm his housekeeper." "Right, and I'm just a family doctor." He fixed me with sharp brown eyes that had seen through better lies than mine. "Word of advice if you're going to survive in Dante Russo's world. Stop lying to yourself first." "I don't know what you mean. You held his hand through surgery. You called me please hurry 4 times on the phone. You're looking at him like he's something precious." Antonio zipped his bag closed. "That's not how housekeepers look at their employers." Heat flooded my face. "It's my first week. I was scared." "Keep telling yourself that." He headed for the door, then paused. "He's a good man, Natalia. In a world that doesn't reward good men. Don't break his heart. He's had enough broken for one lifetime." Then he was gone, leaving me alone with an unconscious mob boss and the uncomfortable truth I'd been avoiding. I cleaned the blood from the floor, changed into fresh clothes. Should have left him there and returned to my duties. Instead, I pulled a chair beside the bed where Antonio had moved him and sat vigil. His face was softer in sleep, vulnerability he never showed awake. I saw faint scars along his jawline, another at his temple. Evidence of a violent life lived in the shadows, and beneath the designer suits and cold commands, I caught a glimpse of something else, someone who hurt, who bled, who needed protection as much as he provided it. "Don't," I warned myself. "Don't start caring. Too late." He woke near sunset, golden light filtering through the now open shutters. His eyes found me immediately, and something shifted in them, surprise, then warmth, then that devastating hunger. "You're still here. Someone needs to make sure you don't bleed out in my room. Your room." He smiled, wincing as the movement pulled his stitches. "You said that before, like you already belong here. I signed a contract. I belong here legally. That's not what I meant." The weight of his gaze pinned me in place. I should have looked away, should have maintained professional distance. Instead, I leaned forward and adjusted his pillow. His good hand caught mine. "Thank you, for calling Antonio, for staying. You would have died if I'd run." "Yes, no drama, just fact. Does that bother you, that you saved a monster? You're not a monster." The words escaped before I could stop them. "You watched me walk in covered in blood, heard the gunshots. You know what I did downstairs, Natalia. I know you protected yourself, your home, your people." I met his eyes. "I know. Someone came here trying to hurt you, and they failed. They failed because I put 3 bullets in them first." He said it testing me, waiting for horror or judgment. I thought of the man in the photo downstairs, the one who'd hurt a child, the red X over his face. Good, I whispered. Dante's eyes widened fractionally. Then his hand pulled me closer, close enough that I felt his breath on my lips. You're not what I expected. Neither are you. I'm exactly what you think I am. Dangerous, violent, possessive as hell. His thumb traced my lower lip. But I'm also honest, so I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to listen. My heart hammered. What? I didn't hire you because I needed a housekeeper. I have Teresa for that. His eyes burned into mine. I hired you because from the moment you stepped out of that car in the parking garage, scared and brave and so damn beautiful, I knew I had to have you. The confession hit like a physical blow. That's insane. You don't know me. I know enough. I know you work yourself into exhaustion. I know you're loyal. I know you didn't run when you had every reason to. His hand slid into my hair, gentle despite his intensity. And I know that every instinct I have is screaming at me to claim you, to make you mine in ways that have nothing to do with contracts or employment. Dante, I'm not asking for anything, not tonight, but I need you to know the truth. He pulled me down until our foreheads touched. You're in danger here, but not from enemies. From me. Why are you telling me this? Because unlike everyone else in my life, you deserve honesty. His lips brushed my temple, feather light. And because I'm hoping God help me that you might want the danger. I should have pulled away, should have reminded him I was his employee, that this was wrong, that I didn't do dangerous men with blood on their hands. Instead, I whispered, what happened downstairs? Who were they? Dante's expression went dark. Men sent to kill me. They won't be the last. Dante recovered with the same ruthless efficiency he brought to everything else. 3 days after the shooting, he was back in his study, conducting business like nothing had happened. The only evidence was the slight stiffness in his left shoulder, and the way I caught him favoring his right arm when he thought no one was watching. I watched. I couldn't help it. Thursday arrived too quickly. Remember, Teresa said, adjusting my black serving dress more formal than my usual uniform. Serve from the left, clear from the right. Keep the wine glasses full. And whatever you do, don't react to anything you hear. What am I going to hear? Her expression was answer enough. The dinner guests arrived at 8. 6 men, all wearing expensive suits that couldn't quite hide the violence in their eyes. They moved like Dante predators in human skin, comfortable with power and the blood it required. I served the first course with steady hands, keeping my eyes down, my expression neutral, professional, invisible, until one of them spoke. Russo, your new girl is exquisite. The accent was thick Russian, maybe. Where did you find such a treasure? Dante's voice went cold. She's not for discussion, Mikhail. Just admiring. No offense intended. But Mikhail's eyes tracked me as I poured his wine, and I felt the weight of that gaze like hands on my skin. I retreated to the kitchen, hands shaking. You did well, Teresa murmured, preparing the next course. Mikhail always tests boundaries. Dante won't let him touch you. How reassuring, I muttered. Back in the dining room, the conversation had shifted to business. Numbers, territories, shipments arriving at the docks. I tried not to listen, but some things were impossible to ignore. The Colombians are pushing north, another man said, younger, with a scar bisecting his eyebrow. They hit 2 of our distribution points last week. Let them come. Dante's voice was absolutely calm. We'll remind them why they stay south of the river. And if they don't take the hint, then we make examples, public ones. My hand trembled as I refilled water glasses. Public examples, meaning bodies, meaning violence designed to terrify. This was his world. This was what I'd signed up for. When I served dessert, Mikhail caught my wrist. What's your name, beautiful? Time slowed. I felt every eye in the room turn toward us. Felt Dante's attention like a physical weight. Natalia, I said quietly. Natalia. Mikhail's thumb stroked my pulse point, a mockery of the way Dante had touched me. Such a pretty name for a pretty girl. Tell me, does Russo treat you well? Mr. Mikhail. Dante's voice cut through the room like a blade. Release her. Now. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Mikhail smiled, but his hand fell away. Apologies, friend. I was simply being friendly. Be friendly with someone else's staff. The message was clear. She's mine. Don't touch. I finished serving and escaped to the kitchen, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the door, I heard the conversation continue talk of money laundering, political corruption, judges on payrolls, each word another nail in the coffin of my innocence. An hour later, the guests departed. I cleaned the dining room in silence while Dante stood at the window, nursing scotch and radiating tension. "You can speak," he said without turning. "What would I say? That you're horrified, disgusted, that you want to leave." He finally looked at me, and his expression was carefully blank. "It would be the smart choice, Natalia." I set down the wine glass I'd been holding. "If you want me gone, fire me." "I don't want you gone. That's the problem." He crossed the room in 3 strides, backing me against the dining table. "I want you here, in my house, where I can protect you, where I can see you every day and know you're safe." Safe? I just served dinner to men discussing murder like it was. A business strategy. It is a business strategy. Welcome to my world. His hands gripped the table on either side of me, caging me in. "This is what I am, Natalia. What I do. And if you stay, you become complicit in it." "I know. Do you?" His face was inches from mine. "Because there's no going back. Once you're in, you're in. The things you've heard tonight, they die with you. You understand what that means?" I understood. Stay silent or die. "I understand," I whispered. Something in his expression cracked. "God, you're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the most foolish. Maybe both." He laughed short, harsh, disbelieving. Then his hand cupped my face with devastating tenderness. "I'm trying to scare you away. Why won't you run?" "Because I have nowhere else to go." The truth spilled out. "Because for the first time in my life, I'm not invisible. Because when you look at me, I feel alive, seen, wanted." "Feel what?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "Like I matter." The confession hung between us, raw and honest and terrifying. Dante's thumb traced my cheekbone. "You matter more than you should, more than is safe for either of us. Then we're both in danger." "Yes." His forehead dropped to rest against mine. "But I'm a selfish bastard, Natalia. I won't let you go, even knowing I'll destroy you." "What if I destroy you first?" His smile was devastating. I'd welcome it. Then his phone buzzed, harsh intrusion into our moment. He pulled back, checking the screen, and his entire demeanor changed. "What is it?" I asked. "Security breach. Someone's been asking questions about you." His eyes met mine, and I saw fear there. Real fear. "Your former landlord was approached. Asked about your employment history, your friends, your habits." Ice flooded my veins. "By who?" "That's what I'm going to find out." He pulled out his phone, already dialing. "But Natalia, as of right now, you don't leave this house without security. You don't go anywhere alone. And you don't trust anyone except me and Teresa. You think someone's coming for me? I think someone knows you matter to me, which makes you a target." His jaw tightened. "And I will burn this city to the ground before I let them touch you." The vow should have terrified me. Instead, wrapped in the darkness of his protection and the heat of his possession, I felt safer than I'd ever been. Even as the shadows closed in, the bodyguard arrived the next morning. His name was Marcus, 6'4", former military, with eyes that never stopped moving. He stationed himself outside my bedroom door like a silent sentinel, and everywhere I went in the house, he followed 3 steps behind. "Is this really necessary?" I asked Dante over breakfast, the first meal we'd shared alone since the dinner party. "Yes." He didn't look up from his tablet. "Until I know who's asking questions and why, you don't breathe without Marcus knowing about it. I feel like a prisoner. You're protected. There's ofta a difference." His eyes finally met mine, and the intensity there stole my breath. "I won't lose you to my enemies, Natalia. I can't." The possessiveness should have felt suffocating. Instead, it wrapped around me like armor. 3 days passed in strange suspension. I learned the rhythms of Dante's household, the way he took calls in Italian when he was angry, Russian when he was negotiating, English when he wanted people to understand exactly what he was threatening. I learned he drank his coffee black at dawn but took it with cream at midnight. That he played piano when he couldn't sleep, haunting melodies that drifted through the house like ghosts. I learned that despite everything, the violence, the danger, the blood, I was falling for him, and that terrified me more than any threat. On the fourth night, I woke to voices in the hallway. Angry. Sharp. I cracked my door open to find Dante and Marcus in heated discussion. Their voices low but vicious. "Can't keep her in the dark forever," Marcus was saying. "She deserves to know. She deserves to be safe. That's all that matters. And when she finds out you've been lying to her, what then?" My stomach dropped. Lying about what? I must have made a sound because both men's heads snapped toward my door. Dante's expression went carefully blank. "Natalia, go back to bed. What are you lying about?" I stepped into the hallway, my heart hammering. "What don't I know?" "It's nothing, don't." The word cracked out of me. "Don't treat me like I'm fragile. You promised me honesty." Something flickered in his eyes, guilt. Maybe. Or resignation. "Marcus, leave us." The bodyguard hesitated, then disappeared down the stairs. Dante turned to me, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked uncertain. "Come with me." He led me to his study, closing the door behind us, poured 2 glasses of scotch and handed me one with hands that weren't quite steady. "The people asking questions about you," he began. I found out who sent them." "Who?" "Your ex-boyfriend, Christopher Chen." The name hit me like a fist. Christopher, who I'd dated for 2 years, who'd drained my bank account and disappeared 6 months ago, who I'd thought was gone for good. Why would Chris understanding crashed over me? He knows I'm here. He knows I work for you. Yes. Dante's jaw tightened, and he's trying to use that information as leverage. Leverage for what? He owes money. A lot of it. To some very dangerous people. Dante's eyes held mine. He's been telling them that he has access to my household through you. That you could get him information he could sell. Nausea rolled through me. I would never. I know that. But his creditors don't. Dante set down his glass with controlled precision. "They've put a price on your head, Natalia. $50,000 to whoever delivers you to them." The room tilted. "They want to kidnap me? They want to use you to get to me? To force you to spy? Or to ransom you? Or..." His voice broke. "I won't let it happen, but you need to understand how serious this is. Why didn't you tell me?" Anger cut through my fear. "You've known for days, and you didn't think I deserved to know someone put a hit on me? I was trying to protect you. By lying? By keeping me in the dark?" I stood, pacing his study like a caged animal. "I trusted you, Dante. You said you'd give me honesty, and instead you've been treating me like a child who can't handle the truth. Because the truth is that I'm terrified." The words exploded out of him. "Because every instinct I have is screaming at me to lock you in a room where no one can touch you. Because the thought of losing you makes me want to burn the world down." The raw emotion in his voice stopped me cold. "I've killed men for less than what your ex has done," Dante continued, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "I've destroyed lives over smaller slights. But with you," he crossed to me, his hands framing my face with desperate gentleness. "With you, I'm paralyzed. Because touching you feels like holding light, and I'm so fucking dark I'm afraid I'll extinguish it." Tears burned my eyes. "You should have told me." "I know." His forehead dropped to mine. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What happens now? Do I leave? Go into hiding?" "No." The word was absolute. "You stay here, where I can protect you, and I handle Christopher and his creditors." "Handle them how?" His eyes went cold. "However I need to." I should have been horrified. Should have demanded he involve the police. Find a legal solution. Anything but the violence I knew he was planning. Instead, I asked, "Will it make me safe?" "Yes." "Then do it." Something flickered in his expression, surprise. Then heat. Then that devastating possession I'd come to crave. "You're not afraid of me," he said, almost wondering. "I'm terrified of you." I met his eyes. "But I'm more afraid of losing this. Whatever this is between. This," his hand slid into my hair. "This is me falling for someone I have no right to want. This is obsession and possession, and something that feels dangerously close to..." He cut himself off, but I heard the unspoken word. "Love." "Dante." The window exploded inward. Glass shattered everywhere. Dante threw me to the ground, covering my body with his as bullets tore through the study. Wood splintered. Books erupted in clouds of paper. The chandelier crashed down, missing us by inches. Then, silence. Broken breathing. The smell of gunpowder and fear. Dante lifted his head, blood streaming from a cut on his temple. Are you hurt? No. What? They're here. His voice was cold. Dead. Christopher's creditors. They came for you. He pulled out his phone, pressing a single button. Throughout the house, alarms began to wail. Stay down. Don't move. He pulled a gun from his desk drawer, sleek, black, deadly. And Natalia? If anyone comes through that door who isn't me or... Marcus. I know. My voice shook. I run. His smile was terrifying. Good girl. Then he was gone, moving through the smoke and shattered glass like death itself. And I was alone, hiding behind his desk, listening to gunfire tear through my new life, and wondering if either of us would survive the night. The gunfire lasted 7 minutes. I counted every second, huddled behind Dante's desk with my hands pressed over my ears, trying not to scream as the world exploded around me. Shouts in languages I didn't understand. The wet sound of bullets finding flesh. Breaking glass, breaking lives. Then silence fell like a guillotine. Footsteps approached the study. Heavy, deliberate. I grabbed the letter opener from Dante's desk, pathetic weapon, but better than nothing, and held my breath. The door opened. Natalia. Dante's voice, rough and exhausted. It's over. You can come out. I stood on shaking legs and immediately wished I hadn't. Blood. Everywhere. On his clothes. His face. His hands. More blood than one person could lose and live. But he was standing, moving, reaching for me with those crimson-stained hands. Are you hurt? I managed. Not my blood. He pulled me against his chest, and I felt his heart hammering, the only sign that he was human, that what just happened had affected him at all. Most of it, anyway. Most? I pulled back, searching for injuries. Found a graze along his ribs, another on his forearm. Nothing fatal, but enough to make my stomach twist. You need Antonio. Antonio's already here. Downstairs, patching up Marcus. His hands cupped my face, tilting it up to his. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Can you do that? I nodded, still shaking. There were 5 men, professional killers, sent by the people Christopher owes. They're all dead now. He said it flatly, watching for my reaction. But they won't be the last. The contract on you is still active until I convince their employer to cancel it. How do you convince someone to cancel a hit? His smile was terrifying, very persuasively, meaning violence, meaning threats, meaning Dante would wade through blood to keep me safe. I can't let you do this, I whispered. I can't let you kill people because of me. You don't get a choice. His voice went hard. This is my world, Natalia. This is what I do. And I will paint this city red before I let anyone touch you. Why? The question tore out of me. Why does it matter so much? I'm nobody. Just a waitress you hired because I hit your car. You're not nobody. His thumbs traced my cheekbones with devastating gentleness. You're the first person in 10 years who's looked at me like I'm human. Who didn't flinch when I told you what I am. Who held my hand while I bled and stayed when you could have run. Dante, I'm in love with you. The words fell between us like bombs. I've been in love with you since you stepped out of that car in the parking garage. Terrified and brave and so damn beautiful I forgot how to breathe. My heart stopped. Stopped again. You can't love me. You barely know me. I know enough. His forehead dropped to mine. I know you work yourself to exhaustion because you're afraid of being a burden. I know you drink your coffee with too much sugar and read romance novels at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. I know you cry at sad movies but pretend you don't. I know. How do you know all that? He had the grace to look guilty. I may have been watching you. Before I offered you the job, making sure you were suitable. You were stalking me? I prefer conducting due diligence. But his expression said he knew how it sounded. I needed to know if you could be trusted, if you were safe. Safe for what? Your household or your heart? Both. The honesty in his voice undid me. I told myself I was being practical, that I needed household staff I could trust. But the truth is, I wanted you close, wanted you in my home, my life, my world, even knowing how dangerous it would be. I should have been angry, should have felt violated, manipulated, used. Instead, I whispered, I'm falling for you too, and it terrifies me. His eyes flared. Say that again. I'm falling for you, Dante Russo. For your darkness and your violence, and the way you play piano at midnight, for the way you protect what's yours, and the way you look at me like I'm something precious. My hands fisted in his bloody shirt. And I hate it. I hate that loving you means accepting death and danger. I hate that I can't have you without blood on my hands, too. Then leave. His voice broke. Walk away. I'll set you up somewhere safe. Give you money. Make sure Christopher and his creditors never find you. Just... His hands tightened on my face. Just save yourself from me. Please. It was the please that broke me. The raw desperation in his voice. The way he was offering to let me go even as every line of his body screamed possession. I can't. The truth. Spilled out. I tried to talk myself out of it. Tried to see you as just my employer. Just a dangerous man I should avoid. But when those bullets came through the window, all I could think was, please let him survive this. Please let him come back to me. Natalia. I kissed him, pressed my lips to his and tasted blood and smoke and desperation. His arms came around me like iron bands, crushing me against him as he took control of the kiss, demanding, possessive, claiming. This wasn't gentle. This was 10 days of tension breaking. This was fear and relief and need too long denied. His hands were everywhere, my hair, my waist, my hips pulling me impossibly closer as I gasped against his mouth. Say you're mine, he growled against my lips. Say it. I'm yours. The words came easy now. Truth I couldn't deny anymore. I'm yours, Dante. All of me. Something primal flashed in his eyes. He lifted me onto his desk, scattering papers and blood-stained files, and stepped between my Karenai's legs. Then let me show you what that means. His mouth found my throat, and I arched into him, hands tangling in his hair as pleasure sparked through me. This was madness. We were surrounded by death and danger, blood still wet on the floors below, enemies still hunting us, but none of it mattered except this. Him, us. Dante, I gasped as his hands found bare skin beneath my shirt. The door. Locked. Marcus is standing guard. His teeth graze my pulse point. No one's interrupting us. Not tonight. He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes, and what I saw there stole my breath. Heat. Hunger. And beneath it all, something that looked dangerously like reverence. I need you to be sure, he said, voice rough. Once we cross this line, there's no going back. You'll be mine completely. Body, heart, soul. And I'm a possessive bastard, Natalia. I won't share. Won't let go. Won't let you leave. I don't want to leave. I pulled him down for another kiss. I want this. I want you. All. Of you. His control shattered. Clothes disappeared. Hands explored. And in the ruins of his study, surrounded by evidence of violence and death, we claimed each other with desperate intensity. When he finally entered me, I cried out not from pain, but from the overwhelming rightness of it, like pieces clicking into place, like coming home to somewhere I'd never been. Mine, he breathed against my ear, setting a rhythm that made stars burst behind my eyes. Say it again. Yours, always yours. And as pleasure built and broke and built again, I realized the terrible truth. I'd given myself to a monster, and I'd never felt more safe. I woke wrapped in Dante's arms, sunlight streaming through the repaired study windows. Sometime during the night, he'd carried me to his bedroom, not the guest room where I'd been staying, but his room, his bed, his space. The message was clear. I wasn't an employee anymore, wasn't a guest. I was his. You're thinking too loud, Dante murmured against my hair, his voice rough with sleep. I'm thinking about what happens now. I turned in his arms to face him, and my breath caught at the sight his dark hair disheveled, gray eyes soft in the morning light, the hard edges of him gentled by sleep and satisfied desire. 5 men died last night because of me. 5 men died because they tried to take what's mine. His hand traced lazy patterns on my spine. Don't carry their blood, Natalia. They made their choice. And Christopher? What happens to him? Dante's expression went cold. I'm meeting with his creditors this morning. By tonight, the contract on you will be canceled. How can you be sure? Because I'm offering them something worth more than $50,000. His smile was predatory. Christopher himself. Gift wrapped and delivered with my compliments. Ice flooded my veins. You're going to kill him. I'm going to give him to people he owes money to. What they do with him is their business. He cupped my face. When I tried to look away. He used you, Natalia. Drained your accounts. Disappeared. Then tried to sell you to cover his debts. He deserves what's coming. I know. I swallowed hard. I used to love him. Once. And now I'm lying in bed with the man who's orchestrating his death. Do you regret it? Last night? No. The answer came without hesitation. God help me. No. Then stop carrying guilt that isn't yours to bear. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, achingly gentle. I've done terrible things, Natalia. I'll do worse before I'm done. But everything I do to protect what matters. And you matter more than anything. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression hardening. I need to go. The meeting is in an hour. He stood, already transforming back into Dante Russo, crime lord, businessman, monster. Stay in the house. Marcus will be outside. Teresa's making breakfast. When will you be back? By noon. He dressed with efficient precision, checking his gun with practiced ease. Then he turned back to me, something vulnerable flickering in his eyes. Will you be here when I return? The question broke my heart. After everything, the passion, the confessions, the claiming he still wasn't sure of me, I stood, wrapped in his sheets, and crossed to him, took his face in my hands the way he always did mine. I'm not going anywhere, Dante. You're stuck with me. His kiss was bruising, desperate. A promise and a plea all at once. I love you, he whispered against my lips. God, I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too. The words felt like jumping off a cliff. Come back to me safely. Always. Then he was gone, and I was alone in his bedroom, surrounded by evidence of the night we'd shared and the dangerous future we were building together. I showered, dressed in clothes. Teresa had quietly moved to Dante's closet, our closet now, and went downstairs to find her in the kitchen, preparing enough food to feed an army. He told you, she said without preamble. About Christopher? Yes. And you're still here. Where else would I be? Where else would I be? Teresa's smile was sad. Most women would run, most should run. But you, she shook her head. You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both. Dante said the same thing, the first night I came here. He's right to worry. This life, she gestured around us. It consumes everything, everyone. His mother couldn't survive it. Neither could the woman before her. My blood went cold. His mother, what happened to her? Teresa's expression shuddered. That's his story to tell. But understand this. Natalia Dante Russo has lost everyone he's ever loved. His mother, his father, his sister. Her eyes held mine. He's terrified of losing you too. That's why he's so desperate to protect you. So ruthless about eliminating threats. He had a sister? Gabriella. She was 16 when she was killed. Caught in crossfire meant for his father. Teresa's voice went soft with old grief. Dante found her. Held her while she died. That's the day he became what he is now. Understanding crashed over me. The piano at midnight. The way he watched me like I might disappear. The absolute ruthlessness with which he protected what was his. He wasn't just afraid of losing me. He was traumatized by loss. How long ago? I whispered. 12 years. He was 23. Became head of the family overnight. Teresa handed me coffee prepared exactly how I liked it. He's never let anyone close since. Until you. The weight of that trust settled over me like armor and chains all at once. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. My stomach dropped, but I opened the text anyway. You think you're safe with him. You're not. He can't protect you from what's coming. See, Christopher. Somehow, even now, he was reaching me. I showed Teresa the message. Her expression went hard. Forward that to Dante. Now. I did, fingers shaking. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, stay inside. Don't answer any more messages. I'm handling this. I love you. The I love you undid me. In the middle of threats and danger, he still found time to remind me. I was typing a response when the front door exploded inward. Not knocked. Not picked. Exploded. Smoke and debris filled the entrance hall. Through the haze, figures moved armed, masked, professional. Teresa grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the panic room Dante had shown me. But we didn't make it. A man stepped from the smoke, gun trained on us with steady hands. Natalia Chen, You're coming with us." Like hell, Teresa started. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Teresa crumpled, blood blooming across her chest. I screamed. Hands grabbed me, dragging me toward the door as I fought and clawed and screamed for help that wouldn't come. Marcus appeared from somewhere, gun blazing, but there were too many of them. A needle bit into my neck. Cold spread through my veins, the last thing I saw before. Darkness claimed me was my phone on the floor, Dante's message still glowing on the screen. "I'm handling this. I love you." I tried to tell him I loved him too, tried to tell him I was sorry, tried to tell him to save Teresa. But the world went black, and I was gone. The woman who woke up in that warehouse wasn't the same one who'd been taken. Dante found me. Of course he did. Burned half the city down doing it. Christopher died screaming. His creditors learned what happened when you touched what belonged to Dante Russo. But the rescue came at a price. I'd seen things in those 3 days of captivity. Done things to survive. Learned exactly how dark the world could be. Now I stood beside Dante at the altar, not as his housekeeper, not as his victim, but as his equal, his partner, his wife. The ring on my finger was platinum and diamonds. The vows we'd exchanged were traditional, but the promise beneath them was written in blood and smoke and desperate love. "Mrs. Russo," Dante whispered against my ear as we swayed to music I barely heard. "How does it feel?" "Terrifying," I answered honestly. "Perfect. Like coming home." His arms tightened around me. "I'll spend the rest of my life keeping you safe, making up for what happened." "I know." I looked up at him, my monster, my protector, my love. "And I'll spend mine reminding you that you're not alone anymore." Teresa had survived. The bullet had missed her heart by centimeters. She was here tonight, smiling through tears as we danced. Everything had a price in Dante's world. Safety cost blood. Love cost sacrifice. But as he spun me across the floor of his mansion, our mansion, I realized something profound. I would pay it all over again. For him. For us. For this dangerous, beautiful, impossible life we'd built from ashes and accidents and fate. "I love you," Dante murmured, his lips finding mine. "I love you too," I whispered back. And in the gathering darkness, surrounded by monsters in expensive suits, who served a different kind of justice, I'd never felt more complete. Some debts couldn't be paid in installments, some could only be paid with forever. And I'd just signed myself over willingly, desperately, completely to a man whose payment plan was simple. Me, him, us, forever.